Welcome to the Body Buddies podcast. This is episode number 195, Mental Health and the MTHFR Gene Mutation with Patti Butts.
Welcome to Body Buddies, home of the Power Foods lifestyle. Take it one meal, one workout, one day at a time. And now, here's the founder of Body Buddies, Kristy Jo.
In case we haven't met before, my name is Kristy Jo. I'm a mind and body strategist who helps you bridge the gap between the science of optimality in nutrition and fitness and the reality of your day-to-day life and psychology. If you want to lose weight, feel better, blast through brain fog, increase your energy, see some muscle definition, soothe digestive distress, and gain a more healthy relationship with your body and food, you are in the right place. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube as Body Buddies or Instagram as Bod Buds and Power Foods Lifestyle. Today's episode is brought to you by ButcherBox.
When it comes to meat, quality matters, but finding high-quality, healthy meat can be hard. ButcherBox's goal is to find you the healthiest and highest quality beef, chicken, and pork every single month. They hold their suppliers to strict standards and taste test every cut before putting it in your ButcherBox. ButcherBox is delivered every single month to your door in a refrigerated carton. You can hand select the cuts, the types of meat you would like to receive each month. You can change it up every single month, and all for less than $6 per meal. I love being able to trust that I'm getting grass-fed beef, huge difference in the omegas, the inflammation in your body, which impacts your brain and your health, and longevity, prevention of disease, and helping you feel better and achieve more in your life every single day. I want to invite you to give ButcherBox 1 to 2 month test drive and see if you don't feel the difference between real quality sourced meat and your conventional meat that you're buying at the grocery store. You can click the link in the show notes of whatever podcast player you are listening to this. I do receive a small kickback for you using that code. That's how I'm able to offset the cost of all of this free production of material to get it to you. So I do thank you for using my affiliate codes and links whenever possible. The food system in this country needs huge improvement. Animal welfare issues continue to surface. People in rural areas have limited access to clean meat sources, and there is not enough information out there on how to eat well. Unless, of course, you listen to like a podcast called Body Buddies. ButcherBox is dedicated to doing their part to connect families with the foods they want to eat by establishing an always open neighborhood butcher online.
In today's episode, I was so fortunate to sit down with Patti Butts, who has an extensive amount of experience in clinical psychology and counseling, as well as holistic nutrition. I found her through a Facebook post, a common friend/family member that was dealing with some mental health concerns, and her comments provoked my desire to reach out to her. I have been looking at the MTHFR gene mutation and aware of its contribution in addition to the microbiome and all of these bacteria contributing to mental health conditions over the past year. And I haven't felt good enough to talk on it just yet, and so recognizing she knew much more than I on the topic, I reached out and said, would you be willing to come and share with my listeners about this topic? So this is especially for you if you are somebody who is dealing with a mental health condition or gets migraines a lot, or you know somebody in your family, in your close circle who could benefit from this information. Ever since I interviewed her, I've been sharing this in my one-on-one coaching calls, and it has been incredible to be able to give such directive information to people. I mean, it's not a diagnosis, it's a plan of attack and saying, get this to your doctor, get these tests, and this is the approach that we can cut out years of frustration of not knowing what's going on, and hopefully potentially prevent years of frustration dealing with mental health conditions as well as potential suicides. And that's my goal in sharing this with you here today. This is quite the epidemic in our society, mental health conditions, and there are answers. I do believe, I don't think there's one answer for everyone, but I do believe that if we're willing to reach out and ask and learn and investigate and try things, that I do believe God does give us the answers, but He does expect us to do our part in seeking those out. So I thank you for being here, being willing to learn and find these answers for yourself. And now I'll let you listen to this interview with Patti Butts. Welcome to the Body Buddies podcast, Patti. We are so excited to hear from you today and have you here to teach us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? You've got so much extensive experience.
Well, I was a school counselor. I have a bachelor's degree in public relations and journalism, which has nothing to do with health, but it's given me a vehicle to kind of share this. And then I have a master's in counseling and in education and rehabilitation. And then I went on to get the additional hours to be a licensed professional counselor, and I did that for about 25 years. Was a school counselor for 15 years, and so really understand depression. I've done drug and alcohol counseling and written psychological evaluations, worked in a girls' group home, you name it. You know, I want to mention before I get started, and I don't know why, that all people with addictions, whether it's to pornography or drugs or alcohol or food, have high histamine. Mm. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but I just want to throw that in. And so, again, I've worked as a licensed professional counselor, and then I went back to school after I had chronic fatigue for 5 years and was deathly ill. Although I still worked, my doctor wanted to give me disability, but I wouldn't take it. I could sit down as a school counselor, and I recovered from chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and then found out I had liver cancer. Oh. So my doctor knew I could not do chemotherapy because I had a very fragile immune system. And so I did an alkaline diet and juiced every day. And I also did microscopy, which you could do in health food stores then. Now you can't. Mm. But I had, and I also went to a doctor that did microscopy. And he said, you have more parasites in your blood than anyone I've ever tested. Wow. And so I did a parasite cleanse for 4 months and the diet, and within 4 months I was in remission.
My goodness. And isn't that where we see a lot of illnesses and diseases these days are coming from, is those parasites? And we've got all sorts of things in the blood and concepts and ideas that most people in a traditional way of life have never even maybe heard of or thought of.
It's true. Wow. Absolutely true.
So after you got diagnosed with cancer, what happened?
Well, I did the diet, and my doctors knew, and I knew, that I could never do chemotherapy with a fragile immune system. So within 4 months on the diet and the parasite cleanse, I was in remission. And it was after that I went back to school to get my PhD in holistic nutrition. Mm. And I believe that all mental health begins in the gut. The vagus nerve and the gut are connected.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to know that.
Yes, I'm going to reiterate that because I also believe that based on everything I have read and the science, especially the past 5 years, I feel like it's exploded in information that all disease, all mental health problems start in the gut.
That's right. You know, I want to talk a little bit about MTHFR, which really contributes to mental health issues. Having been a school counselor, and I understand emotionally what causes depression. Mm-hmm. Anger you turn on yourself, feeling trapped, guilt, and loss of love, loss of self-esteem. And we talk about teen suicide so much, and of course there are emotional components, but I believe we're missing the boat by not having a young person that's depressed acting out, by not having their blood tested. I think that's so important, and I wish that what we're going to talk about today could be taught in every health class. Oh, yeah. Because our young people need to know that there are physiological reasons why they're depressed.
Yes.
And sometimes it's what they're eating, sometimes it's genetic, sometimes it's high histamine. And even mothers of small children that have children that are acting out, having temper tantrums, could have MTHFR. And so often, little children that are having temper tantrums, angry outbursts, have pylorrhea. And you can read about this in Nutrition and Mental Health. They're just lacking vitamin B6 and zinc, and just changing the supplements and tweaking the diet. And maybe they're allergic to dairy. So many children can't handle dairy, and so many children can't handle sugar. And we're a nation of sugar addicts.
Yeah, we are. Well, and I just want to add in this MTHFR. I really appreciate having this conversation with you because, as you know, the past few years, this conversation within medicine, within health, everywhere has shifted that way. At least for me, I'm sure it's been around a lot longer than that. Just my awareness of it. I haven't been able to do a solo episode on it. I don't know enough. So thank you for being here to help us and all of this audience learn a little bit more, and especially to gain the idea that if we're recognizing those things either in ourselves or loved ones, that we know what to do about it.
Well, MTHFR is a genetic defect. It's called methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, that's a mouthful. So they reduce that down to MTHFR. It's an enzyme that adds a methyl group to a form of folate to create the methyl tetrahydrofolate. And this process is called methylation. And methylation is so important because we want these enzymes to work optimally because they affect our gene regulation, detoxification, they process hormones, they build our immune system, immune cells, they produce energy. Wow. And so many people are tired and fatigued.
Yeah, that's what we're lacking.
And they protect nerve cells and neurotransmitters, which is a big part of what we're talking about today. They help produce dopamine, serotonin, and epinephrine. And, you know, I've read several things that 40 out of 100 people have this and don't know it.
I've heard similar statistics.
And now I'm reading that 1 in every 2 people may have some form of MTHFR.
Now, is it true there's over about 30 different mutations? Or, I don't know the right word, but there's quite a few different...
There are quite a few different mutations.
Okay.
And if I were recommending a book, I would recommend Dirty Genes by Dr. Ben Lynch.
I've heard of this book.
The expert. But you can also pull him up on YouTube.
Yeah,
and I strongly recommend that there are a number of different genes.
I'll just mention really quick. I will link that up in the show notes for all of you listening. Just tap on your phone and you'll be able to see the show notes and that link to the book and the YouTube channel for Dr. Ben Lynch.
So, you know, I've worked with people. I've worked with a couple that were going to get a divorce because he was addicted to pornography. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he went to programs to help him, but I referred them to a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and, of course, they both had MTHFR. He had double, which is called homogeneous, which means that if you have double, you inherited it from both your father and your mother, and your body is 70% less likely to detoxify.
Wow.
Now, if you have one gene, as I do, your body is 35% less likely to detoxify. And so, you know, and they recommend, you can't handle folic acid. Mm-hmm. And folic acid isn't everything.
Yeah, they add it, don't they?
They add it.
All
the government mandated that they add, because they used to have, birth defects because they thought women were lacking folic acid. In reality, they were lacking folate, and they may have had MTHFR.
Wow.
And so the government mandated that it's added to cereals, it's added to bread, and honestly, you just can't tolerate folic acid when you have MTHFR. And also, it's in multiple vitamins.
Yeah.
So you want to find a multiple vitamin that doesn't have the folic acid.
So for all those listening, it may be a good idea to go to that medicine cupboard and to be looking at those vitamins and supplements that you've been taking and to see if there is folic acid in that.
Right.
And again, going back, the statistics are showing almost 40%. And so this isn't to cause alarm in someone that doesn't have these symptoms, right? Or
right.
It's if we're experiencing mental health issues, if we're experiencing addictions of some nature, that now is the next step that we want to look at, purifying the vessel so things can start functioning normally.
And also, Kristy, sleep disturbance, cardiovascular issues, anxiety, depression, fatigue, chronic pain, or any mental illness. Check this out. Yeah. If you have a teenager that's depressed, get their blood tested. In the case of MTHFR, they have an inability to process folic acid, which is vitamin B9. Okay. And it can have serious side effects. For one, a developing fetus can suffer brain defects like spinal bifida or anencephaly, or if the mother has severe defects. Folate deficiency can cause lethargy, impaired cognition, mood disorders, all kinds of things. And also miscarriages. If you have a history of miscarriages, you may have the MTHFR gene. And it can be easily remedied by taking methylfolate and the vitamin B, active vitamin B12, which is methylcobalamin, which is so, so important. Yeah. And you may be also low on glutathione. But find a naturopath or a doctor or someone that knows. And if you don't know where to look, in the back of the book Dirty Genes, he lists all of the practitioners that he has worked with.
Wow.
And so you look up by your state so you can look that up.
Oh, that's great. Really quickly, I want to help our listeners really understand, because this is normal conversation for us, but some of our listeners may be trying to process what's happening. So pointing out what you said, if we're not able to detox our bodies as well, if having either the homozygous or the homogeneous mutation, if that makes our body unable to detoxify, in other words, we're not eliminating those free radicals, pathogens, what else is our body needing to detox every day that needs to get out of our body?
Well, certainly the liver's not detoxifying it, but our hormones are working right. Our immune system isn't right. We're not producing ATP, not the energy. It affects everything. It protects our nerve cells. So there are so many side effects when we're not detoxifying.
It's like a big jigsaw puzzle that wasn't put together correctly and looks all jumbled.
Yeah, and definitely in fibromyalgia, and we're not getting rid of the candida, which is a major player in fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue.
How would you describe candida in layman's terms if someone had no idea what that was?
Oh, wow.
I know, that's your whole topic, right? That's what you did your dissertation.
I've written a whole chapter. Well, candida is intestinal yeast, and it's like a mold in our body, but it can be in your brain, it can be systemic, and antibiotics. By the way, taking antibiotics is like having an atomic bomb go off in your system.
I love hearing you say that.
And so, if you've ever taken antibiotics, they produce all kinds of candida. Is one of the side effects.
They kill off good bacteria. The bad bacteria grows.
Yes. So if you're taking antibiotics, and I don't know if I can even pronounce that. Can you pronounce that for me?
Let's take a look here. Saccharomyces, perhaps?
Boulardii.
Boulardii.
And this is the...
let me take a picture of that.
This is the probiotic that you can take if you're taking antibiotics. And sometimes you have to have antibiotics.
And it's Jarrow. I've heard great things about Jarrow. Or Jarrow, whatever brand.
It's a good...
They are very reputable brand.
Yeah. And so this is the probiotic that you can take, and it will not affect the antibiotics you're taking.
Oh, great.
It will also help prevent sepsis, which when you have pneumonia, you go to the hospital, you frequently get sepsis.
Yeah.
So this will prevent sepsis, and there are other probiotics that you can take if you have candida, but if you've taken an antibiotic, this will not interfere with the antibiotic,
That's amazing.
Which is so important.
Great. We'll link that up in the show notes for you all too.
So, Candidus is just, it craves sugar, it craves dairy, it craves carbs, and it's like this little yeast in you saying, feed me, feed me, feed me.
Yeah.
And Candida can cause all kinds of things too, like depression. Again, it's a major player in chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. It builds up the lactic acid in your body and causes lots of pain. So I could talk.
Yeah. Well, and we love that topic. So let's come back to how a person might know that they have MTHFR. If they're saying, I have a mental health condition, my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife, where do we send them? How would they know if they have this?
Well, you can go to 23andMe, and then you have to take one of the tests and look that up online to have the results.
Okay.
Also, Dr. Lynch, look that up because he now has a good test and a really good program for telling. And then a naturopath. Go to a naturopath that knows, or an integrative medical doctor, or a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Look up the people that know and understand that. When I first found out about MTHFR was 6 or 7 years ago, and Dr. Nancy Foster, who's an expert, who's going to be retiring soon, which is sad.
It's such a shame, huh?
Yes, is an expert in MTHFR. And she knows the side effects. And she, by the way, worked with Dr. Carl Pfeiffer and also Abraham Hoffer. She worked with them back east. They are the authors of Nutrition and Mental Health, which is an excellent book still.
Okay.
They reversed 25,000 cases of mental illness with diet and nutrition. I don't think they knew about MTHFR, but Nancy Foster learned so much from them, and she wanted to educate everyone. So she invited 500 local doctors here in the city and around about to come and listen to the presentation. She had people come. She had 50 that were interested. Wow. So every doctor is not aware and does not know and doesn't believe because they haven't been educated. So find someone who does know.
Yeah, that's a
and
great
she taught classes. There was... And I went to some of those classes or workshops. I went to a 3-hour workshop where a local pediatrician who went back east and learned about MTHFR gave the presentation. It was excellent. And he was so good. He talked about a young boy that had been acting out in school. The mother, every day he was in the principal's office. And he said he took the test, he found out that he was undermethylating, he had MTHFR, they gave him the supplements, and the mother came back 2 weeks later and she said, you can't believe the difference in this child.
Wow.
And so the sad thing about this local physician is he works for one of the big healthcare, and they told him he could no longer take all that time and do the tests.
Wow.
Which is so sad because he was excellent and helped so many children.
So only a naturopath could test for this mutation?
No, any doctor
Any
that
doctor.
knows, but you want to make, yes, there are nurse practitioners that know. So look up the resources. Ask them when you call to make an appointment.
Okay.
Ask the naturopath or the integrative or the, and some traditional doctors do. There's Kim Davis is a local doctor. There's an excellent doctor in Park City. And look up the resources on Dr. Lynch's line so you know.
That's a great recommendation. What else could we be doing with our diet if we have the MTHFR?
Well, Dr. Lynch talks about that in Dirty Genes. You're probably not going to do this every night, but you probably want to go sugar-free. The very first thing.
Yeah.
Sugar-free. And that means even some of the supposedly good sugars, and absolutely no artificial sweeteners. Dairy-free. We were never meant to drink dairy.
Amen.
And I could go on and on about dairy.
Oh.
And also gluten-free. And all of that is tough. And you may want to look at reducing your red meat. I am vegan. I am vegan because when I found out I had liver cancer, my doctor put me on a vegan diet.
Okay.
And that may not be, but I do eat fish. You need the protein and you need collagen from that to build bones and muscle and tissue, fascia. All of that is so important. So if you go dairy-free, you need to do collagen, or you need to do, if you go vegan, you need to do something to get your protein. Yeah. And you can get all the protein you need in vegetables and grains, and hemp seed is great.
Bone broth powder is really popular right now, that collagen protein.
But let me talk about bone broth. You want to eat, folate is in all your green, like in broccoli, spinach, any leafy green. Garbanzo beans are really good, and garbanzo beans are high in iron also. So any leafy green and celery. I love juicing, and I used to juice with spinach. I love juicing with kale and cucumber. Cucumber is the most alkaline, and I haven't talked about the pH and alkaline balance, but cucumber is the most alkaline food that you can eat. Maybe not the most nutrient dense, next to wheatgrass. But wheatgrass is hard for people to tolerate. Yeah. So, and the reason I don't use spinach, and there are a lot of good things that are high in histamine. And high histamine will definitely affect your immune system. It will affect depression. It can make people schizophrenic. I could go on and on about the side effects. And you can pull up, you can go to Amazon and read. There's a little book on high histamine or histamine foods, free on Kindle. I forgot the name of the book exactly, but
We'll go look it up.
Yeah, just pull it up. High histamine will affect your homocysteine, which will affect your cardiovascular and your mental health also.
Now I'm gonna pretend like I'm a listener here, who is probably thinking, well, can't I just take an antihistamine? Does that fix it?
No, I don't like antihistamine.
Oh, I good. This is what I want to hear.
So, but doctor, let me tell you what will reduce histamine.
Okay.
Apples, organic, of course, and sprouted peas. And peas sprouted peas will raise your DAO, which helps your immune system. And I'm not going to go into that today.
Each of these is hours of conversation,
maybe
right?
another time, but that's so important. But so those two things, and of course, the folate will help reduce high histamine. Your lettuces and things like that. But Dr. Lynch has two products. He has a probiotic Histamex that will reduce histamine, and it's not like an antihistamine. I don't like those. I don't like pep acid. I don't like, which will cause Alzheimer's. That's another story. And he also just came out with a new product to fight. So just look up Seeking Help and look up the products for antihistamine. So those, but the sprouted peas are very good for you. They're high in protein. Mm-hmm. And
would sprouted lentils also fall under that category?
I don't think so.
Okay. I eat those. I need to switch to some
sprouted
lentils
peas. Are good for you. And they're going to be high. And then another thing that is excellent and very alkaline and very good for you and high in protein would be sprouted sunflower seeds that you grow.
Okay.
And and I would grow your own.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wouldn't buy them in the store.
Right.
So, anyway.
Wow. There's so much denseness here and so much conversation. So returning to the MTHFR, because as our audience can see, there's so many different side conduits of health. You can't just say this one thing is it, but our real intent with this episode here is to help you be aware, should you test for this MTHFR, and be aware that mental health conditions isn't about just willing yourself into more positive thinking. And sure, I do believe in a lot of the psychological things that we need to learn about controlling emotion, but we're talking a deeper causation here and working on that.
Absolutely, positively. I could have counseled people for years, and if they didn't change their diet or supplements or didn't have some help for the physiology going on in their body, there would be no change. There may be a little, and positive thinking is great, and you want to get rid of the negative neural programming, the stinking thinking, all of that is so important, and to sing positive songs and be around positive people. But you really need to look at what's going on in physiology, especially if you have migraines, mental health disorders. MTHFR can contribute to schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, because of inadequate methylation. Our body is not detoxifying the vagus nerve and the gut, and so the neurotransmitters aren't working.
Mm-hmm. And as a reminder for our audience, what are those neurotransmitters? They're those chemicals that enable the transfer of messages in the brain. And if those aren't being produced, that dopamine, that serotonin, that norepinephrine, that is a major problem. And so you've got to think of your body like a chemical lab. And it's not just a bank account of eating food and it either makes us gain weight or lose weight. We're talking about a far more comprehensive conversation that looking at chemical structure, that your entire experience while living will be based upon that. And so as you look at motivation for what you are doing with your eating, and yes, we're busy, yes, that life is stressful, but look at the many of the problems in your life that perhaps are being, they're continuing the process, that if you were to break the cycle by starting with some nutritional changes. Let's say one of you out there is like, I am confident that this is something I need to do, and maybe you absolutely are in a situation you can't even go get the test right now. Hearing what Patti's saying about cut the dairy, get the sugar out, and making some of those basic changes could be extremely powerful in your life. And that's what we talk about here at Body Buddies and with the Power Foods Lifestyle constantly, is these small shifts can completely change the trajectory for your future. And so be gentle with yourself, of course, in making changes, but persistent.
Right. And also, if you're on medication, by the way, I want to recommend a book here that I love by Dr. Kelly Brogan, who is a psychiatrist, A Mind of Your Own, who talks about depression, not so much about MTHFR, although she may mention it, but it's an excellent book if you have depression, anxiety, an excellent book for women. But she does not prescribe drugs for depression. And if you have MTHFR, look up the list of medications that you cannot tolerate and that may make you suicidal, more depressed if you have MTHFR. There are just some medications, and especially antidepressants, that the body can't tolerate. It's interesting to me that you may not be able to metabolize caffeine quickly, or so all of those really affect your health. Look into that.
Right. Well, and you've got so many years of watching people and the results that come in their life from their choices. I'm sure you've seen both people be willing to make changes and others who don't.
Right, and I even have some people in my own family that you can just share and educate. But my passion is to educate. I wish this was taught in every health class, that it was required, and I wish all counselors had to take a class in this because they don't understand it.
Right.
They haven't been educated, and most physicians have not. Even though it's coming more and more to light, you're going to have your integrative and your naturopath that are more educated and want to take a more natural, holistic path. But Ben Lynch is an expert. You also want to check on environmental toxins, and there are so many. The water you drink, get rid of the fluoride, and an alkaline water, and I just have a small alkaline water filter that filters out the chlorine and other toxins. Those are toxins that affect you. The air you breathe, some of the building materials, and do you sleep with your mouth open? That's not healthy at all.
Oh, I got to work on that one.
So sometimes I will put just a little cloth headband, around my jaw so that I don't sleep with my jaw open.
That's a great idea for training this jaw of mine that likes to hang open.
That likes to hang open, yeah. So...
Well, what a great conversation we've had, and it's about time for us to wrap up, but I'm curious if there's anything that we perhaps forgot to touch on that might be helpful to our listeners.
I'm not sure, but get the book, or look online, the Dirty Genes, and some of Dr. Lynch's videos. And there are other doctors, too, that have some great articles.
Yeah.
But especially if you have any health issues, check it out. Be happy, be healthy, change your diet. It makes such a difference in your life.
Wonderful.
Let me just quickly wrap up. I had a young man come to me, a darling personality, addicted to drugs. Oh, not drugs so much, alcohol. He even spent a year in jail because the judge said, if I catch you drinking again, and they did, he went to jail for a year. Actually, put him in prison, no crime, just that he was a drop-dead drunk. And when he came to me, I had him be tested, and of course he had the homogeneous, the double gene for MTHFR. And in that case, he needed the methylcobalamin shots, the B12, the active B12. And he gave up drinking right away. And so for people with addictions, this is so important.
So important. Well, thank you for having this conversation with me. I hope our listeners have gained great value from this. Definitely check out all of the links in the show notes. All right. Well, Body Buddies, you know what to do. Power your body, one meal, one workout, one day at a time.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. You can learn more about Body Buddies and Power Foods Lifestyle by going to www.body-buddies.com, BODY-BUDDIES.com, and powerfoodslifestyle.com. That's www.POWERFOODS-lifestyle.com.
Information in this episode is provided for informational purposes and is not meant to substitute the advice provided by your own physician or other medical professional. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.